All right, let's get ready to dive into something truly ancient and really mind-boggling. Today we're going to explore the Rigveda. It's a collection of Sanskrit hymns that's central to Hinduism, and we're not just skimming the surface here. We are going deep into a specific hymn called the Nasadiya Sukta, which tackles the origin of the universe.
And what makes this so intriguing is we're talking about a text that predates the Bible by centuries, maybe even a millennium, and it offers a perspective on creation that's both incredibly old and surprisingly relevant, you know?
Yeah, it really is. It's like peeking into the minds of people who are asking these same huge questions that we still grapple with today. What was there before the universe? What set it all in motion?
And the Nasadiya Sukta doesn't shy away from the mystery. In fact, it leans into it.
So let's start with the beginning, or rather the non-beginning. The Nasadiya Sukta describes a state before existence as we know it. Help me wrap my head around this. What exactly was this primordial state?
Okay, so imagine a state of pure potentiality where there's no differentiation. No light or darkness, no sky or earth, no life or death. Even concepts like time and space didn't exist as we understand them.
Whoa, no life and death. That's a tough one to visualize. So how did something come from, well, nothing?
That's where the Nasadiya Sukta gets really interesting. It suggests that the first thing to emerge from this void was kama, which is often translated as desire.
Wait, hold on. Desire created the universe. I thought desire was something we were supposed to overcome, not the driving force behind like all of existence.
It's a radical idea, isn't it? But the Nasadiya Sukta challenges our conventional thinking about desire. Here, it's not about yearning for material possessions or these fleeting pleasures. It's more like this primal creative impulse, the fundamental urge for being itself.
So it's like the universe was born out of this cosmic longing to exist. That's a pretty powerful image.
It is, and it connects to a core concept in Vedic philosophy, the idea that creation is an act of self-expression, a manifestation of this inherent desire within the universe itself.
I'm starting to see why this hymn has resonated with people for millennia. It's not just a dry account of creation. It's this philosophical exploration of the very forces that shape reality.
Exactly, and the Nasadiya Sukta doesn't stop at desire. It also mentions tapas, which is often translated as heat, but it's much more than that in this context.
So what does tapas mean in this ancient hymn? Is it like the Big Bang, this massive explosion of energy that set everything in motion?
It's more nuanced than that. Think of tapas as this intense cosmic energy, a kind of spiritual fervor that fuels this creative process. It's the force that drives transformation and brings things into being.
So it's not just about heat as this physical phenomenon, but more like this focused, concentrated energy that's essential for creation.
You got it, and here's where it gets even more relevant to us. The concept of tapas isn't limited to the cosmic scale. It applies to our own lives as well. Think about any creative endeavor, whether it's writing a song or building a business or even raising a child. It takes that same kind of focused intention, that willingness to exert effort and overcome obstacles to bring something new into existence.
Wow, that's a really interesting connection. So we're not just talking about these abstract cosmic forces. Here we're talking about a principle that's at play in our own creative journeys. This tapas is something we can tap into.
Absolutely. And the Nasadiya Sukta seems to suggest that this creative energy is inherent in all of us, a reflection of that same cosmic tapas that birthed the universe.
I'm already feeling inspired. So we have this primordial void, this kama as the driving force, and this tapas as the fuel. But the Nasadiya Sukta also mentions these mysterious figures called rishis, right? What's their role in all of this?
Yes, the rishis, or sages. They're depicted as these incredibly wise beings who, through deep meditation, were able to gain these profound insights into the mystery of creation.
So are they like the first scientists observing and trying to understand the universe?
It's more mystical than that. In Vedic thought, the rishis are seen as more than just wise humans. They're intermediaries between the divine and humanity figures who bridge the gap between the unknowable and the known.
So they're not just observing creation, they're somehow participating in it.
In a way, yes. They're seen as the seers of the Vedas, the sacred texts that form the foundation of Hinduism, and the Nasadiya Sukta hints at the special role they played in understanding and transmitting this knowledge about the universe's origins.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. I'm already curious to learn more about these rishis and their role in Vedic cosmology.
There's a lot to unpack there, and we'll definitely dive deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, let's focus on another fascinating detail in the Nasadiya Sukta. The 7 sages, or Saptarishis. These figures were said to be born from Brahma's mind and played a key role in shaping the universe.
With Brahma, as in the Hindu god Brahma. So these seven sages weren't human.
Their origins are shrouded in mystery, but they're definitely depicted as beings of immense power and wisdom. The Nasadiya Sukta seems to suggest that they were instrumental in bringing order to the universe, working alongside Brahma to establish the cosmos as we know it.
This is mind-blowing. So we have these rishis who are like intermediaries between the divine and humanity, and then we have these seven sages who are seemingly even more powerful and mysterious. It's like layers upon layers of creation, each more fascinating than the last.
It is, and the Nasadiya Sukta doesn't shy away from complexity. In fact, it embraces it, which brings us to perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the hymn, its ending.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did the Nasadiya Sukta say about the ultimate origin of the universe?
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't give us a definitive answer.
What? After all this talk of primordial voids and cosmic desire and powerful sages, there's no grand finale, no aha moment where it all comes together.
The Nasadiya Sukta ends with a series of questions, acknowledging that even the gods don't know the ultimate source of creation. It leaves us with a sense of wonder, a recognition that some mysteries are beyond our grasp.
Wow, that's a really different approach from most creation stories. Instead of claiming to have all the answers, it's admitting that there's still so much we don't know.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so powerful. It invites us to approach the universe with curiosity and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
I'm hooked.
Oh.
This deep dive is already changing the way I think about creation. It's not just about a linear story with a clear beginning and end. It's about exploring the mysteries, the forces and the possibilities that lie at the heart of existence.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore in the Nasadiya Sukta, from the philosophical implications of its concepts to its connections to other creation myths from around the world.
Well, I can't wait to dive deeper in the next part. This is already blowing my mind. Okay, I've been doing some thinking about that whole desire created the universe thing, and I'm still a little puzzled. Isn't desire usually seen as something that leads to suffering or attachment? How does that square with this cosmic universe-creating force we were talking about?
That's a great question. You've hit on one of the most interesting and complex aspects of this ancient hymn. It forces us to reconsider what we really mean by desire.
Right, because the word desire often carries this baggage of selfishness or craving. But that doesn't quite fit with this idea of the universe being born out of desire.
Exactly. The Sanskrit word used in the Nasadiya Sukta is kama, and it has a much broader meaning than our modern understanding of desire. It encompasses this life force, this creative impulse that's not necessarily attached to personal wants or needs.
So are you saying it's more like this impersonal force, this energy that's inherent in the universe itself?
That's a good way to think about it. It's not about individual desires for things or experiences, but rather this fundamental yearning for existence, for manifestation, for becoming.
That's starting to make more sense. But I'm still curious, if this karma is so fundamental, why is desire often seen as something we need to overcome in spiritual traditions?
That's where things get really nuanced. The Nasadiya Sukta doesn't present kama in isolation. It's part of a larger cosmic order, a web of interconnected forces and principles. And within Vedic philosophy, there's this concept called dharma, which is often translated as duty or righteous conduct.
So dharma is like a guiding principle, a way of navigating this cosmic web of forces.
Exactly. And dharma plays this crucial role in understanding how kama should be expressed and channeled. It's about aligning our individual desires with a higher purpose, with the natural order of things.
Okay, so it's not about suppressing desire altogether, but rather understanding its place within a larger context.
Precisely. The Nasadiya Sukta doesn't condemn desire. It acknowledges its power and suggests that it's a force to be understood and harnessed, not feared or repressed.
This is blowing my mind. I never thought about desire as something that could be aligned with a higher purpose. It's like the Nasadiya Sukta is challenging us to rethink our whole relationship with desire, both on a personal and cosmic level.
It is, and this brings us back to those mysterious rishis we were discussing earlier. Remember, they're depicted as these extraordinary beings who gain deep knowledge about the universe through meditation.
Yeah, those guys really piqued my curiosity. You mentioned they're seen as intermediaries between the divine and humanity, but what does that actually mean in terms of their role in creation?
In Vedic thought, the rishis are considered the seers of the Vedas, the sacred texts that form the foundation of Hinduism. They're not seen as composing the Vedas in the traditional sense, but rather as seeing these eternal truths through deep meditative states.
So they're like channels for this divine knowledge. It's almost like they're tuning into a cosmic frequency that reveals the secrets of the universe.
That's a great analogy, and this idea of direct perception, of seeing the truth through deep inner exploration, is central to many spiritual practices in Hinduism.
Okay, so the rishis are these incredibly wise beings who have access to this deeper level of understanding about creation. But what about those 7 sages, the Saptarishis? They seem even more mysterious.
They do, don't they? The Nasadiya Sukta mentions them as being born from Brahma's mind, suggesting a unique and primordial connection to the act of creation.
So they're not just wise humans like the rishis. Are they more like demigods or something?
Their exact nature is open to interpretation, but they're definitely depicted as beings of immense power and wisdom. They're considered the progenitors of humanity, and they played a key role in shaping the universe alongside Brahma.
So they're like the architects of the cosmos. That's pretty impressive. It seems like every detail in the Nasadiya Sukta adds another layer of complexity and wonder to the story of creation.
It does, and it constantly challenges us to think beyond our usual assumptions and limitations.
And speaking of challenges, we were talking earlier about how the Nasadiya Sukta ends with a series of questions rather than definitive answers. I have to admit, that part really intrigued me.
It's one of the things that sets this hymn apart from many other creation stories. It acknowledges the limits of human understanding and embraces the mystery at the heart of existence.
So it's not trying to give us all the answers, but rather inspire us to keep asking questions and exploring the unknown.
Exactly, and that's a really powerful message, especially in a world that often seeks certainty and easy answers. The Nasadiya Sukta reminds us that the universe is full of wonder, and that some mysteries are best approached with humility and an open mind.
I love that it's like the Nasadiya Sukta is inviting us to become explorers, not just passive recipients of knowledge. It's encouraging us to embark on our own journeys of discovery and to find our own relationship with the mysteries of creation.
And speaking of journeys of discovery, let's shift our focus to another fascinating aspect of the Nasadiya Sukta. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how this ancient hymn compares to other creation stories from around the world. We'll discover surprising connections and explore the common threads that seem to weave through humanity's attempts to understand the origin of the universe.
Okay, I'm ready to travel the world through creation myths. This is going to be epic. Okay, so I'm ready to take this whirlwind tour of these creation myths from around the world. I'm curious, do we see any common themes or patterns when we compare the Nasadiya Sukta to other cultures' stories about how the universe began?
You know, it is fascinating how often similar motifs pop up in creation myths across different cultures and time periods. Despite their unique cultural flavors, these stories often share some fundamental elements.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, remember how the Nasadiya Sukta starts with this primordial state of non-being, this void before existence as we know it?
Yeah, that really blew my mind. It's such a radical concept.
It is, and you find variations of this idea in creation stories all over the world. For example, in the Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish, the universe emerges from a swirling chaos of water. And in many indigenous traditions, creation stories often begin with a state of darkness or emptiness.
So like this idea of a before existence is a pretty universal concept that makes you wonder, is it just a coincidence, or does it point to something deeper about the human psyche? This need to imagine a starting point for everything.
That's a great question. It's certainly possible that these shared motifs reflect something fundamental about the human experience, this innate desire to understand our origins and make sense of the vastness of the universe.
So how does the Nasadiya Sukta's approach to creation stand out from these other myths? What makes it unique?
One key difference lies in its emphasis on philosophical inquiry. The Nasadiya Sukta doesn't just present a linear narrative of creation, it raises profound questions about the nature of existence and invites us to contemplate the mystery.
That's right. I remember how struck I was by the fact that it ends with a series of questions rather than definitive answers.
Exactly. It's a stark contrast to something like the Genesis story in the Bible, which presents a more straightforward account of God creating the world in 6 days.
Yeah, the Genesis story is very much about establishing this clear order of creation with God as the sole creator.
Whereas the Nasadiya Sukta embraces ambiguity and acknowledges the limits of human understanding. It even suggests that the ultimate source of creation might be beyond our comprehension altogether.
I love that about the Nasadiya Sukta. It's not afraid to say, we don't know everything. It encourages us to stay curious and embrace the unknown.
Precisely, and that's a message that resonates across cultures and time periods. Despite our differences, humans have always been drawn to the big questions about our origins and our place in the universe.
It's like these creation myths, from the ancient hymns of the Rigveda to the stories passed down through generations and indigenous cultures, are all part of this ongoing human conversation about who we are and where we come from.
And that conversation is far from over. The Nasadiya Sukta reminds us that the journey of discovery is just as important as the destination, and that the universe is full of wonder waiting to be explored.
Well, I think it's safe to say that this deep dive has left me with more questions than answers, but in the best way possible. It sparked a sense of awe and curiosity that I know will stay with me.
That's the beauty of exploring these ancient texts and ideas. They challenge us to expand our perspectives, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the mysteries that lie at the heart of existence.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for taking me on this incredible journey through the Nasadiya Sukta. It's been an unforgettable deep dive.
The pleasure was all mine. Remember, the universe is vast and full of wonders. Never stop exploring.